Hey friends, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to week 16 of the Cool Down Catch-Up, a weekly catch-up of what went down last week during race week. Well, the time has come and passed, and I'm back in Colorado from Wisconsin after the Wausau Limitless Race this past weekend, and what a race weekend it was. As I mentioned last week, I did have the goal of hitting the 24-hour mark in 100 miles. This week's episode is going to be a little bit different and less of a day-to-day highlight and more of a race recap. So let's get to it. The Cool Down Catch-Up of the Wausau Limitless Race starts right now. To start out, I want to give credit where credit is due, and that is to the amazing race directors that put on such an amazing event and race this past weekend. Jake, Ellen, Chad, and Rob. It may be that Midwest mentality, but this is an amazing group of human beings. All of their attention to detail and helpful hands make the weekend feel like a big family reunion that you actually want to be at. Everything from helping crews set up their stations to popping blisters, each and every one of them is there when you need them, and you feel their generosity is genuine. Countless, we really appreciate you coming all the way from Colorado's, and thank you for being here. No, thank you Chad, thank you Ellen, thank you Jake, and thank you, Rob. And thank you to all of the volunteers who spent countless hours manning aid stations and any other behind-the-scene contributions. The Wednesday we got into town, Adam and I headed over to do one loop around the course to get a little bit of a shakeout after driving 17 hours from Colorado, and then also to check out the conditions, and then also to remember some of those landmarks to know where we could hike to conserve some energy, and then when we could run. Okay, so it is Wednesday, and we are at Sylvan Hill Park. Adam and I just drove 17-ish hours on 2 hours of sleep, and we are out doing a little test preview of the course, just trying to get a gauge on the wetness and the muddy conditions, which it's a little bit muddy, but seems to be better than last year. So we had the entire day Thursday to rest, check into our Airbnb, and take care of some last-minute logistics. But unfortunately, it rained all day, like torrential downpour. And this was the first time that some doubts crept into my mind that if I could actually do the 24 hours and 100 miles. On a dry course, I was pretty confident that I had the fitness to complete the 24 hours. But trotting through mud, water, and waterlogged grass for 24 hours made the entire event seem a little bit more daunting. But we were there, and there was nothing else to do but go out on Friday and take on whatever the course held. Race day was upon us, and a few of us headed over to Sylvan Park at 6 a.m. to set up our pop-up tent, lent to us by the one and only Mike Hong, aka the librarian, because he always has what you need. All of the runners had their crew stations set up in the field near the start and finish line pavilion and the chalet, where the race had a fully supplied aid station with anything you can imagine needing for your hours out on the course. We set up our crew station to be efficient so those of us running could pop right in, sit down, and rest while our crew filled us up with the needed supplies for the next lap. For those of you who may not know or don't remember, the Wausau Limitless Race is a backyard-style ultra. So I'll give you the quick and dirty details. It's a 4.167 mile loop, on the hour, every hour. The remainder of the time you are allowed to rest and resupply for the next loop, and it's a last person standing event. If you want to know a little bit more details, history, and strategy of this style race, I'll leave a link to the video I did a few weeks ago right here, as well as at the end of this video, so you can brush up on your backyard ultra style race. The race is held at Sylvan Hill Park in Wausau, Wisconsin. The course can be divided into a few distinct sections. The initial uphill, after leaving the start line, you leave the pavilion and you make your way up a gravel road and onto trails that bring you up and around to the top of the tubing hill. Then the tubing downhill, where you will run down losing all the gain you just made. Only to turn around and go right back up the other side and gain all that elevation again, what we dub the tubing uphill. A short single track trail brings you to what we call the garden bed downhill. Here, once again, you lose all of that elevation gain as you run down crazy soft, spongy soil down and past your crew stations. This is great because you were able to communicate with your crew what you wanted ready for the next lap, as we were about halfway through the loop. The next section we call the wooded uphill. This actually might be my favorite part of the course this year, as it is a long, sustained climb through the beautiful covered woods. This spits you out on what we called the garden bed uphill, which is a steep short climb up the adjacent garden bed downhill on the same style soil. The next section is probably the longest sustained running portion of the course, the out and back, which is a pretty flat, grassy section that brings you far back along some ball fields, where you make a hairpin turn and return to the woods for the final section, the techie downhill. This is an awesome section of trail of rugged roots and rocks that really keeps you on your toes so that you don't roll an ankle. Finally, after making your way through this section, you run along the river and back up to the finish line at the pavilion and into your crew station after 4.167 miles and 516 feet of gain. This year, there was 5 of us running the race: Jocelyn, Jacob, Noah, Adam, and myself.
My goal for today is to run 4 laps and to not be shitty to Jacob during those 4 laps.
Just have fun, work on fueling, work on good mental skills, and try to poop myself.
Yeah!
My goals today are to, number 1, be in that freaking corral. 5 months ago, I couldn't even get out of bed. Now I'm starting this ultra again, and ultimate goal is to get just over the marathon distance at 28 miles.
Beautiful.
Goals, man, I'd like to hit that triple-digit mileage, but we'll see. I mean, I really just want to go till the body doesn't allow it anymore. I want to fail to get in for a lap and not fail to go out for a lap.
Nice.
Goals for today is to always go out for a lap, and I want to not finish a lap rather than not go out for a lap. Putting it out, probably want to go for the 24-hour mark, but if I don't get that, it's just going until like the body doesn't allow me to go anymore and not the mind.
Just before 9 a.m., all of the runners piled into the starting corral under the pavilion. My biggest goal in this race was to run my own race and not get sucked into the excitement and go at a pace that was faster than I was intending. But race day excitement got the best of me, and Adam and I lined up at the head of the pack for the first lap.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right out here on lap 1, feeling good. Course isn't as bad as we thought it was going to be, but settling into that hopefully 24-hour plus pace.
On the first lap, I knew we were hitting our landmark splits about 2 minutes fast, but I was feeling fresh, and I kind of took this first lap as a little bit of a warm-up. Adam and I did come in at the 48-minute mark, which is about 4 minutes faster than I was intending to do. So for the next lap, we did jump into the middle of the pack in the pavilion just to kind of naturally force us to slow down a little bit. A few laps in, I started to find my groove, and I started hitting those landmark splits perfectly. So I buckled in at this pace, hoping that I could maintain it for the next 24 hours straight. What's great about this race is you're running every loop with the same people. So you're able to chat with them, learn a little bit about them, and learn what their goals and ambitions are for that race, right alongside of you on that same adventure. It's amazing to hear about other people's goals and watching them crush those. You're able to meet so many amazing human beings and even reconnect with some of those that we ran with last year. I was hoping to film more people asking them the question of why they were out there, but I did get one runner, Chad, who I spent a few laps with.
So I'm Chad from Wisconsin. I did this the first year, and it's such a great group of race directors, great group of people to run with. Find somebody new every year I do it. It's just fun to get to meet new people.
Yeah. The first runner out in our group was Jocelyn, who did 4 laps in 16.7 miles, which was her personal best. So huge congrats to her. She then went straight into crew mode and helped Jacob out with the remainder of his race. The first 5 laps went out without a hitch for me. I was feeling strong and super confident, and the hours seemed to be flying by. However, on lap 6, on the techie downhill, I let my mind wander for just 1 second, and I stepped off the trail on the side, and I rolled the same ankle that I did a few months ago. I heard the pop, I felt the pop, and instantly frustration and discouragement entered my mind. I hobbled my way back that last quarter mile with a lot of frustration and doubt in my mind. I told Renee and my crew as I was limping in that I had rolled my ankle and I needed athletic tape. I did a half-assed tape job on it and sat visually frustrated and disappointed in my chair. I thought about the countless hours of training and preparation I had put in as I sat in the chair with only 25 miles. How was I gonna run another 18 hours and 75 miles on a bum ankle? I could sense the crew silence, and I knew they had discussed what was gonna happen as I hobbled my way back out for the 7th lap. As I left the crew, I asked Renee, find a nurse, a doctor, a PT, anyone. I need someone to tape this ankle correctly. I decided to go out for that 7th lap with my good longtime friend Noah, knowing that it was gonna be his final lap.
Here on lap 7 with my longtime friend Noah. And how's it been today?
Man, so good. Feel strong. It's my last lap, unfortunately, but it's been a long journey to be able to even start this race, much less get to hour 7.
Yeah.
So I feel good.
Guy herniated a bunch of discs and fucked his Achilles last year, and he could barely get out of bed like 6 months ago. And now he came out and absolutely crushed it. And
27 miles in.
Yeah, 27 miles in, and if he wasn't on doctor's orders, he said he would keep going.
And I feel good.
Noah is one of the most determined guys I know, and he's spent the last year doing PT trying to get back to this start line. And I knew that I wanted to share this final lap with him. It was incredible to see him go out and crush 7 laps in 29 miles and make it look casual. I know him and he knows himself, and he had a lot more in him, but he was on doctor's orders. Coming in after the 7th lap, the amazing race director Ellen came over and taped my ankle. Find a race director at one of those large races that's in the trenches like this. I had her tape my ankle super tight and told her that I would deal with the repercussions of that later in the race, because I knew if I rolled that ankle again, I would be done.
On lap 8, had a pretty unfortunate ankle roll, very similar to the one I had 12 months ago. I got it taped up and it's feeling okay, but pretty frustrating because, you know, I'm gonna be 32 miles in here and I feel pretty fresh.
The tape job was holding up and the ankle wasn't bothering me too much. All I did was I changed my approach a little bit, making sure that I wouldn't roll my ankles on any of the hard downhills. I remember coming in at lap 8, sitting down and looking Renee straight in the eye and saying, I'm getting 100 fucking miles. And she just smiled at me and said, I know you are. I think this little exchange and my ankle roll set a little bit of a fire under my ass and made me that much more determined to get to that 24 hours and 100 mile mark. It just sent me into grind mode. It's crazy because besides this injury, I felt really strong and really fit on every single lap. I had one close energy bonk, but a couple Oreos took me right out of that. I settled into the laps and I kind of lost track which lap I was on, which I think was kind of a good thing.
Lap 11 and last lap before the headlamps come out, just going up the, what I've dubbed the garden bed uphill.
Nighttime struck and we all donned our headlamps on lap 12 at 8 p.m., knowing that the next 10 hours we would spend under the light of the moon, in the darkness, and under the light of our headlamps. I find these nighttime hours to kind of move differently. I kind of settle into this dreamlike state, and after 12 laps and 12 hours of doing the same loop, my body kind of just knew what to do, when to hike and when to run. Jacob is training for the Leadville 100 this summer, so he decided to tap out at lap 13 after 54 miles. It's pretty incredible to watch someone make 50 plus miles look pretty casual. Once the night struck, I started finding myself setting little goals, such as hitting my PR at the 16-hour, 16-lap mark in 66 miles. The next one was hitting 18 hours, 75 miles. Then it was like, okay, only 4 hours to sunrise. And then it's that 24-hour, 100-mile mark, baby. Somewhere in the middle of the night, the back of my right knee started getting really tight. And I think it was because having my ankle taped so rigidly and with the little mobility in there, it was manifesting in the back of my knee. But honestly, this was the only thing that was bothering me the entire race. My energy levels were fine. I wasn't dealing with any cramping or muscle tightness, just normal fatigue. I hate to sound like a pompous ass, but in the nighttime hours, I knew I was gonna hit that 100 miles. As long as I didn't re-roll my ankle and I stayed up on my nutrition, I knew I was gonna get to my goal. This is something I was really diligent on with my nutrition. I always tried to have one of my energy gels on the wooded uphill, as well as drinking one of my bottles of Tailwind every single lap. I also played around with using Ketone IQ every 2 hours, and I really felt like it helped. Every time I would take that Ketone IQ, that lap felt really strong, and I was always looking forward to the lap in which I would be taking my next shot. In the late hours, I would come into my crew station, I would hand them my vest to resupply, and I would plop down in my chair, and Dale would cover me in a blanket, and I would get a 4-minute or so cat nap, which I really think helped out during those nighttime hours, just able to rest the eyes and the mind for just a few minutes. I even found myself on some of the laps on the straightaways, closing my eyes and kind of doing a little bit of a sleepwalk. The sunrise did feel like a little bit of a shot in the arm. It's crazy to have watched the sun set, run the entire night, and watch the sun rise.
Good job, Adam. Hell yeah. Keep it going. Good job. Woo! Hell yeah. Keep it up, babe. You're doing great. You're doing great, great, great.
When Adam and I lined up for that 24th lap, we knew we had done it. We fist bumped and we headed out on that final loop. I'll be honest, I kind of got a little bit emotional on that last lap, knowing that it was indeed gonna happen.
Way to go, y'all. Keep it up, Mark, guys. Good job, guys. Good job.
What do you need?
Thank you all for being here. I don't need shit.
Adam and I had made the deal to wait and cross that finish line together. Adam was feeling really strong on the downhills and not so much on the ups, so he approached his laps with that mindset. Whereas I was taking the downhills a little bit more conservative, but I was still feeling really strong on the uphills. I had caught up to him at the end of the lap, right before the finish. And we crossed that finish line together at 23 hours and 53 minutes and 100 miles.
100 miles this year so far. Next Ryan Massey out of Tennessee. He was our winner back in 2022. He's back again going for the same thing. Tyler Owens, back in 2022, we did 79 miles, and he ran 100 and just got it. Good job, man.
Adam is one of my best friends in life and adventure, and this was a really special moment to share with each other as we crossed that line 24 hours, 100 miles later. I can't express how happy I was to have completed my first 100 miles. I'll admit I got pretty emotional at the finish, sharing that moment with Renee, but I'll blame that on 30 hours of sleep deprivation and 100 miles on my feet. This was a huge personal accomplishment for me, having reached my goal with honestly quite a bit left in the tank. I am so stoked to finally have my first 100-mile belt buckle and to have this goal checked off my list. Trotting around the woods for 24 hours seems pretty nutty to most, and even myself. But for some reason, this brings me so much gratitude and self-accomplishment. After 23 hours and 53 minutes, Adam and I completed 100 miles and 12,300 feet of elevation gain. This year's Wausau Limitless Race was an amazing weekend that I will remember for the rest of my life. But it would not at all be possible without the loving support and care from our absolutely amazing crew. Pete, Alex, and our crew chief, Dale Brazen. You guys are absolute rock stars. Staying up all night, filling our bottles, grabbing us food, and covering us with blankets. You guys are absolute legends. Thank you also to Jocelyn and Noah for not only going out and crushing the course, but sticking around and helping us achieve our stupid ass goals. And my biggest shout out to my biggest fan, support, and crew queen, Renee. Thank you for staying up and awake as long as we did and being there to support me as I pursue these goals of mine. You are the biggest support in my life, and your confidence and your belief in me gives me the confidence and belief in myself. I love you and thank you. Well, I'm just over a year and a half into running, and I already have 100 miles under my belt. Buckle, baby. And I'm so excited to continue this adventure of ultra running. I'm going to be implementing the method of taking one day off for every 10 miles ran, so I do have 10 miles off of running while I let my body recover before I start my next short training block for the San Juan Solstice 50 miler. Thank you to everyone at the Wausau Limitless Race, and one more big shout out to the race directors, Chad, Jake, Rob, and especially Ellen. Seriously, thank you, Ellen. I do not think I would have been able to keep pushing on 75 miles in an extra 18 hours if it wasn't for your help with my ankle on lap 7. Thank you to everyone who stuck around during this video. If you don't mind, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and until next time, remember, adventure awaits.